Carrie Bradshaw had Manolos, and Joan Clayton had mortgage payments. Carrie's chaos was often rewarded, while Joan's chaos was often met with consequences. Both women are single, career-focused, kinda fashionistas with messy love lives, but only one of them gets rewarded for it. So let's talk about why. But first, my name is Rosalind, and this is Black Girls on TV, where we celebrate and critically explore Black women and femme characters on television. So if you love girlfriends, hate girlfriends, have another opinion about girlfriends, you're in the right place. So like and subscribe. Comparisons between Carrie and Joan make a lot of sense because there are a lot of similarities between Girlfriends and Sex and the City. So both shows were on during the early 2000s. Both shows have Carrie and Joan as these sort of like aspirational women characters who are fashionistas and they're living it up in the big city. They are very much two different sides of the same archetype. So Carrie is this creative, cool, fun girl who is reveling in her own chaos against a New York City backdrop. And Joan is this smart, accomplished, quirky woman who's kind of trying to sort out her chaos in LA. And both shows hinge on how these women interact with their careers, their love lives, and their friendships. But that's really where most of those similarities end. So even though they're navigating these like relatively similar circumstances, mostly brought on by their own messy and poor decisions, Carrie's chaos is celebrated and Joan's chaos tends to be pathologized. So when you sit down and think about both shows and do a character analysis of Carrie and Joan and make comparisons, you see these parallels pop up throughout the entirety of both seasons. It happens over and over again. I'm just going to point out 3 different instances where we see this dynamic show up. So the first point that I want to explore is that in Sex and the City, we see Carrie get the prize, and the prize is big. But in Girlfriends, Joan just gets Aaron. Not that big of a prize. So first, Carrie spends the entire 6 seasons of Sex and the City chasing Big, a man who very much does not want her. Yes, he is interested in proximity to her, he's interested in sex with her, fun times here and there, but is he interested in a long-term relationship? Very much no. And that's demonstrated in his relationship with Natasha, who he practically marries like out the gate, no questions asked. But does that deter Carrie? Not at all, because Carrie is absolutely nuts. Even when Big is married, he remains the object of Carrie's goals. Big is her prize. Why would Big still be her prize after rejecting her over and over again? It's really just because Big is wealthy. He has a lot of money. And Carrie is a girl who needs a man who has a lot of money because Carrie is not about to work, but we'll get into that later. Carrie wants Big because the lifestyle that he can provide for her and the spaces that he allows her to enter into. And in the end, she gets Big. This is without acknowledgement of anything in the movies or the terrible, and just like that, not even going to discuss it. We're talking about the television show only. Now on to Girlfriends. So Joan is chronically single, and while some of the men that she dates match where she is in terms of her career and earning power, many of them do not exceed her earning power in the same way that we see Big exceed Carrie's earning power. So really, there's no promise of the soft life on the other side of marriage for Joan. Like, she's really in it for love. So the closest thing to that for Joan is really her relationship with William, which when they do finally get together, it's just so boring, short-lived, and sparkless that I honestly wish the show never even explored the relationship, but that's a different topic for a different time. But anyhow, after Joan ruins her friendships and kind of sullies her reputation a little bit, she meets Aaron. And Aaron is fine. He's okay. But I believe that Aaron was sent to humble Joan. And Aaron is not a bad guy. He's a teacher in LA, which is a profession that should come with a huge paycheck, but unfortunately it does not. But the biggest problem with Aaron is that he will not let Joan indulge even a little bit. He won't let her plan the extravagant, beautiful wedding that she's always wanted and that she can afford. He won't let her buy the beautiful stove to go in her beautiful kitchen that she can afford. And why can't Joan plan the wedding and have the stove? Because Aaron can't afford the wedding and the stove. And these are very much the actions of a man who is insecure and uncomfortable with the fact that his partner out-earns him. And we don't like that. And that is why it feels like he was sent to humble her and is very much in ways a punishment to her. So the second point that I want to explore is about career. Joan gets stuck in mid-career hell while Carrie gets rewarded for being completely unhinged. Carrie does not really care that much about her career. We never really see her striving for much. She really prefers a life of leisure. Can't blame her. She did go to college, but she didn't finish. Yet she's this columnist who's able to afford this kind of lavish New York City lifestyle, and that's a very difficult thing to accomplish. But we never really see her doing much. All of the opportunities kind of just fall into her lap. So we have this situation with Carrie and Aiden, where after so long of playing around with Aiden's feelings for the most part, Carrie has to purchase her apartment back from Aiden after he purchased it and purchased the apartment next to hers with the plans of tearing down the walls and building a huge apartment for them to share together. But they break up, and Aiden's very fair. He just says, buy your apartment back from me. But Carrie cannot buy that apartment back from him because Carrie does not have any money. She has just over $1,600 in the bank, which is not enough money to purchase that apartment even in the 2000s. And 3 people in Carrie's life offered to loan her the money. Big, Miranda, Samantha are just like, here girl. And she's like, no, I'm gonna go talk to Charlotte and shame her for not offering me the money. All ridiculous of her. However, the thing that really stands out to me about this situation is that Carrie, when she does put a little effort into making some extra money, she's offered $4 a word at Vogue when most writers are only offered $2 a word. So by merely just seeking out the opportunity, Carrie is rewarded just double what writers tend to get at Vogue. But Joan, on the other hand, is hardworking and committed to her career as a lawyer, even though she doesn't really like it that much. And she's doing so well in this career that she gets offered a promotion, which is going to mean more travel, more money, and a bigger office, just like William. But in contrast to Carrie, money and opportunities don't just pop up for Joan. As a matter of fact, most of season 4 is about how Joan is kind of just stuck in this career and she's trying to figure it out, and you're watching her navigate that. And even when she does quit the firm and open the J Spot, every single victory is hard won. She wants to open a restaurant, but she doesn't have enough money. We watch her figure it out. She gets enough money to open the restaurant, but it's a flop. So she works through some ideas. She even considers selling her own house to save the J Spot. And then once the restaurant is doing relatively well and she's experiencing some success, all of her personal relationships go to hell. Which leads me to the consequence that I think is most impactful, and that is that Joan has to lose a friend while Carrie gets to skip off into the sunset with her girls. And I think that this is actually the thing that demonstrates the real world differences and consequences that Black women tend to face that white women don't. So at the end of Sex and the City, Carrie, despite being a weirdo and kind of a terrible human and friend, keeps all of her friends. And as a matter of fact, it was Miranda, which is probably one of her most strained relationships at the time, that brings Carrie and Big back together by tipping Big off that Carrie was in Paris with the Russian. And it all wraps up very nicely for Carrie. She's got her rich man, she's got her girls, and she's got an iconic show ending. But not so much for Joan. So she does find some career success with the J Spot, and that's fun to watch. And she starts playing the field, and she's dating around and having fun, but unfortunately she loses her goddamn mind. The entire series, we watch Joan be this almost predictable, reliable friend, specifically to Tony. But in season 5, Joan becomes self-obsessed to a point where she makes some vital missteps and just poor decisions in the way that she's treating Tony, and she loses that friendship. And there's a lot more nuance to the Joan-Tony friendship, which should be explored at a later time. But in the end, Joan loses a girlfriend. And I don't care. You cannot replace Tony with Monica. Also, a different discussion. And this is where we see fiction illustrate real life. Joan and Tony's friendship had to end because Jill Marie Jones, who plays Tony Childs, decided to leave the show.
Okay, let me say this. I've said it before, but let me say it again. So what a lot of people don't know is Girlfriends was my third audition in town. So the first audition I booked, second one I didn't, third one I booked, Girlfriends. So I'm on this show for 6 years. I know no casting people. I know no producers. I mean, they don't know my name, is what I'm saying. Studios don't know me. Networks don't know me. And so I have a 6-year contract. So I booked Girlfriends at 25. So now, not only am I a woman, I'm a black woman. I'm like 31, 32 now. And so I'm thinking, I got to get stuff going. Yeah. Because I don't know, like,
what's next.
What's next. And so fear played a part. Yeah, and but you know what I will say? Studios and networks, they can fire you at any time if they choose, but we have a contract. And there was something that I really loved about having the conversation with myself. Do I want to sign a new contract? Where do I want to go in my personal career? Like, I have that choice because my 6-year contract was up, and at the time it felt right for me.
So, after 6 years on a successful television show, nobody in the industry really knew who Jill Marie Jones was. And she felt that in order to reach the success that she wanted to reach and create the opportunities that she wanted to have, she needed to leave the show. Girlfriends never really received that mainstream recognition outside of black spaces within the industry, even after 6 years of being on television. And Jill Marie Jones knew that this is going to be a hindrance to her career. So after 6 years, there was no real reward on the other side. There was only more work. So once again, Carrie gets a successful long run on prestige television, 3 feature films, and a sequel that wasn't that great, while Joan gets 8 seasons, almost unrecognized, and to be cut short by the writer's strike and never to be heard from again. So that's my take, and I would love to hear what you think. Are Carrie and Joan 2 sides of the same coin, or are they something totally different altogether? Let me know, and stick around because I want to explore more differences between Carrie and Joan and between Girlfriends and Sex and the City. And stick around because I love this topic. I want to explore more differences or similarities between Carrie and Joan, Girlfriends and Sex and the City in following videos.